We ain't so different, you and I. There's magic in these flesh and bones, a heart that beats for what is right, a spirit stronger than your stones.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This is a really surprising one to me because we all know really who gets the earth, who gets the land. It's the ones with the most power. Our teacher is subverting this and flipping it on its head and saying, no, it's the ones without the power, it's the little people. This is about the bullied, the marginalised, the displaced, those we see as the other, and those whose very presence we ignore. Opening my eyes to see the people around me here in Tennessee, I've seen how life can still be bleak for so many. Just a few miles from my house is Hard Bargain, a predominantly African American community, built on land that was bargained for by freed slaves after the Civil War. I met Scott Rowley. As a young boy, Scott heard Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech in DC. Years later, he and his wife adopted 2 African American children and moved into the Hard Bargain neighborhood. Scott has dedicated his life to the work of racial reconciliation, equality, and justice.
Around us here in Hard Bargain, obviously the African American tension with a dominant white culture versus a minority black culture, that's there. And because we're a central southern city, we just have the residue of that 400 years of slavery that continued to breed that distrust. I think an intentional pushing out those that are not from a certain dominant cultured life. I think that is who the meek are, the people who are overlooked and forgotten.
Growing up here, I didn't really think I stood out that much. I felt welcomed by my classmates. However, I can remember in first grade, a really good friend of mine had a sleepover. She showed up with invitations and she's passing them out, and I'm just eager and waiting for my invitation. And she never gave me one. And I couldn't understand why, because we play together every day. And so I asked her where was my invitation, and she repeated to me what her mom had told her, and she said, I can't invite you because you're black and you may get grease on our couch. I was just devastated. When I get home, I'm really sad, and I talked to my mom about it, and you could see like the hurt in her eyes. And I can remember her looking at me and just saying that some people they don't understand. She said that's not a reason to not invite you, but that doesn't mean everybody's bad. And so that was my first memory that I have, realizing that because of my color, I was excluded from something that, you know, I never saw coming.
Okay, Terry Ann?
Deep in my heart.
I am from North Memphis. Everyone knows at the hood you consider, you know, the violence, the drug abuse, and the gang activity. The lack and hope of a future comes from believing what you see. What most of the people in the hood see is just this darkness, this negativity, and they are without hope, and I found my hope in Christ. Of course, the odds are stacked against me, but at the same time, I have this hope, you know, and I'm not afraid to dream. I'm not afraid to dream big, and knowing that I can go after every vision that God places in my heart, like, no doubt I can do it fearlessly.
So stand through the pain until someday there's a change. Hand in hand, face to face, I'll let my dreams fly.
Defending the meek doesn't take a brilliant education. You know, love is something we know what to do. And I'm so sorry for being so emotional, but it's at the heart of what Jesus is doing. Love is not something complex. It costs you your life. And that's why Christians don't like it. We don't like loving our neighbor like we love ourselves, because that's the cost. But it's as simple as saying, what did Christ do for me? What did he give up for me? So your belief system starts to be radically changed and reoriented. That idea of swimming upstream, it becomes pretty clear that's the only direction to go.
I really enjoyed my time with Scott and hearing Tangi's story and getting to know them. And it really opened my eyes to some of the other people that we see as the other. So I wanted to talk to a religious Muslim and find out for myself, what is it like in the South here in America now, post 9/11 and in the age of ISIS?
Well, my name is Riyad Al-Qasim, known as Chef Raqqa here. I'm from Raqqa City in Syria, the center of the new war today, so if you want to put it that way.
In 1990, Riyad moved to America, became a US citizen, married an American girl, and started a family. Then in 2001,
9/11 happened within an hour. In my shop, man walked into me and he threatened me. He said, I'm coming back and blowing everything up. To me, it was a shock. The way he looked at me, he didn't see me as a fellow citizen. He saw me as an adversary, an enemy. He wanted to eliminate. That was the first reality check for me.
hearing Riyad's story and knowing he's from Syria caused me to kind of really look into the refugee crisis that's going on.
The world is in the greatest refugee and migrant crisis that it has ever been in. Syria in particular has millions of people displaced from their homes, either inside or outside Syria. I have a Syrian refugee father. He comes from poverty, he was homeless, he was a sponsored child. It's just such a huge part of my background. It's a huge part of my context, my faith. Stu invited me to write a song with him for this Beatitudes project, and it was really immediately intriguing to me because he had this very specific idea to write about a mother who is displaced.
I discovered this footage from the Guardian newspaper, and there was these two women, they were mothers, they had their kids there. They were saying they can't look after themselves, let alone their families. She said, you know, with her boys there, that every day she was having to wake up and be higher than her mother, stronger than her mother. And that kind of stuck with me, it never left me. It's the keys out. So we were with this beautiful refugee family, just seeing if we can play some music together on one of the tracks, the track with Audrey Assad, so really great fun. I'll tell you what, shall I just do a verse and a chorus and then go into that thing?
Yeah.
We just had this real stunning moment. They couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Arabic. It was just a real connection, and I invited Hassan to come and play 2 days later on the song with Audrey, and that is what became I Will Be Your Home.
Wars rage on every side. Death will not rob you blind. Oh, I will be your eyes. I will be higher than a mother. Safer than a place to hide. I will be more than just your shelter. Oh, I will be your
The gospel takes these tragedies of the human experience and flips them over and upside down, where all of the marginalized, the oppressed, the downtrodden are rising to the top as the most glorious crowns on this creation.
So the word from the hill is that God is on the side of those who are unnoticed, downtrodden and marginalised. The invitation in this beatitude is to find ways to build community with those we see as different to ourselves. Native American Charles Robinson offers some wisdom from his own personal story.
One of the challenges we have is being able to see life from somebody else's perspective. So based on my life experiences as a Native man, growing up in Texas and Oklahoma and living in Tennessee and the travels I've done, I've got all these different color lenses I put on my glasses. The challenge is, can I take off my glasses and put on yours and see life from your perspective? And when we can do that, then we have a greater heart of acceptance for things that are different than what we know of as our normal.